Hi everyone, David Ryshpan here once again with another YouTube tutorial. We're going back to funk music this week and we're going to talk about how to create, find, and reduce parts from classic funk recordings that have more instruments than your own band does. We're going to talk about what I listen for, what parts to isolate, what parts to combine, and how to go about playing them in your band context and on what instrument. If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. There is the subscribe button below, and click the thumbs up, click the bell notification so you get notified of every time I'm posting. If you're feeling especially generous, there is also in the description box a Patreon link where you can get PDFs and exclusive content. All right, the first tune we're going to look at is a James Brown tune called Give It Up or Turn It Loose. And the anchor of this tune from a keyboard perspective is the organ part, which goes like this. So we're in D7, D minor, kind of that ambiguous funk blues tonality. And that's the primary part, and that's basically all that James plays. There is a second guitar part that happens at the end of that organ phrase, and it goes something like this. Dotted eighth note on beat 3 of the second bar. 1, 2... And it starts in that A minor shape in first inversion, like we saw in the first funk video. So C, E, and A. And then the middle note, the middle note of the triad goes up to the F and then back down. So that's what that second guitar part is doing. And you can combine those two parts. If you only have one guitar player, I assume the guitar player is going to play the signature single note line. So it can fall on you, the keyboard player, to play that line at the end of the organ hook. What you can also do, if you need to fill more space and fill more rhythmic subdivision, is you can ghost some of the notes. On a real Hammond organ, not all 9 of the drawbars sound at the same time, and the contacts under the key bed react in such a way that you can kind of cheat the instrument to not have a full sounding note. You can just have a percussive slap. On the Nord, which I love, it does not really emulate that, but if you play short, you can get close. And there's 2 methods that I use in this kind of context. I can ghost with my right hand thumb on the low D, anchored around that D. That's one option. The other option is to ghost with that A minor triad that my left hand is in. Now it's important to realize that in my split, my organ is split at middle C, and I have this octave sounding in the same octave here. The drawbar combinations are different, but my hands are 2 octaves apart at the same sounding pitch. That's really important. Obviously, a real Hammond organ has 2 manuals. So this is kind of the cheater's way of doing it. So my left hand is on a more hollow sound. It's the 1st, 3rd, and 4th drawbars all the way out. And that's going to ghost mostly on the 4th 16th. The main organ lick is mostly quarter notes. This is going to be right before each of those quarter notes. And that puts me in position to catch the secondary guitar lick. The second tune we're going to look at is Average White Band's Schoolboy Crush. And this is another complicated tune with lots of moving parts. And in my case, I made the decision to take the clavinet part and the chordal guitar part. Let's start with that secondary guitar part, which is, again, that first inversion minor chord shape. Now we're back in E, E7. That guitar part is just playing 4 dotted eighth notes in a row. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. Now the actual clav part on the record is very simple. It's 4 notes, 1, 7, octave 7. Now that part in and of itself is not very hard, but the way it locks against or interplays with the second guitar part makes it a little bit tricky. For me, the way I think about it is what is steady and what is moving. Because the right hand or the second guitar part is steady dotted eighth notes, I'm looking at the choreography between where my left hand hits in comparison to the dotted eighth. So the first one's together on beat 1 on the downbeat. My left hand is always a 16th note before my right. The third tune we're going to look at is brass construction and movin', which again is not in and of itself a very difficult part, but when you try to cover multiple parts at the same time, this is where it can get a little bit tricky. The main riff is played on a Rhodes with a phaser, and that adds a lot to the sound. And the riff starts the song after the brass stab, and it goes like this. 1. 1. given what else is happening in the tune, we need to play this in the left hand, which might be a little bit trickier if you're a right-handed piano player. 1. So now at the top of the tune, after that riff comes in, the part changes and there's a synth solo. And the solo is over these chordal chords, which are also in dotted eighth notes again. Same pattern as we had in the average white band tune, except these are stacked fourths. So we're going to alternate between A, D, and G, and G, C, and F. And then there's a solo over that. In this case, I would flip what is anchoring me. I would make sure that left hand is super solid and just loop those dotted eighths over and over again. And then just play single notes as half notes and quarter notes in the right hand, just to make sure that you have some rhythmic independence happening. Etc. And then you can start improvising over that. Then when it goes back to the verse, there's the introductory riff again. There's another instrument, possibly a guitar or maybe the Rhodes player, comping more jazz four-note voicings or open voicings over that riff going on. And so the same rhythmic independence we just practiced with the solo section, we would apply to the riff, the verse riff as well. So make sure that the verse riff in the left hand doesn't move, doesn't budge. And then plant a complementary D minor voicing, either 3-5-7-9 or 5-7-9-11, which looks like an A minor chord. And just move back and forth between those two voicings over the riff.